This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Halloween. It's Thursday, October 31st, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will bring you part of a conversation with Dustin Huffman, speaking with the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Naig, as he talks about Iowa Ag being in the spotlight this week as the World Food Prize takes place here in the capital city of Des Moines, and that boar log discussion takes place here in the capital. We'll have more on that coming up in a little bit, but it's time now for a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You're watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Today on Ag Matters PM, I bring you a discussion between Dustin Huffman and Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig. He talks about the boar log discussion, which is taking place at the World Food Prize in Des Moines, and Iowa agriculture being in the spotlight.
All right, it's time for our monthly sit down with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. Secretary, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk with us today.
You bet. Always great to catch up, Dustin.
Of course, we are getting ready for the boar log dialogues that are actually starting here this week in Des Moines at the World Food Prize, Hall of Laureates, and downtown in Des Moines as well. And of course, you're going to have the opportunity to talk with several people from many different countries. And of course, I'm sure trade is one of the top priorities you're going to be talking about during these meetings.
You know, this really is a remarkable gathering of folks. And of course, it's all because of Dr. Norman Borlaug, as you know, a farm kid from Cresco, Iowa, who is recognized for having saved more lives than any other human being, over 1 billion lives because of the Green Revolution. The work that he did in food and agriculture, research and production of wheat and rice, just an amazing story and legacy. But that we don't just talk about it, what happened back then. It's about what's still happening today, and he can still be an inspiration to others. And so this is what was sort of crafted as the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture, because there is no Nobel Prize for Food and Ag. And he thought that should be corrected. And so we've got the World Food Prize. And really, you've got folks coming from all over the world. And what that gives us a chance to do is certainly talk about important issues that confront food and agriculture production around the world. But also, it's a great way to showcase Iowa. And we have visitors coming in. I know we'll have folks from the UK, from Taiwan, Pakistan, all kinds of different places coming from around the world. And we'll get a chance to do sometimes one-off meetings with them or in some groups. We've got some folks coming from the Middle East who want to talk agriculture. And so it really is a nice way for us to play host, show off Iowa a little bit, and do a little bit of international work right here in our backyard.
Well, definitely. And when you showcase Iowa, not only does it, make a good sales pitch for everybody going back to their countries, but it also gives them an idea of what we are capable of doing, because we're not increasing any acres by any means. It's how much we're able to do with the things that we've learned how to do, the capabilities we had to do, and the technology and the know-how that we have.
Absolutely. I love it when you're sitting across the table from a minister of ag or an ambassador or a consul general, somebody who sits there and says, how do you do it? How does it work here? Tell us the story. And you get a chance to talk about those very things. Yes, you know what? We have incredibly productive soil here in the state of Iowa. We have weather that cooperates most of the time, or at least just enough to get a crop in and across the line. But it's so many other things. And it's certainly around innovation. It's a way that farmers work together. It's about a land grant institution. It's an extension service. It's cooperatives. It's the private sector that's investing in research and development, and it's a free market. And those are all things that you get to talk about. There's property rights and ownership and those types of things. Those don't happen everywhere around the world. And I say this a lot when I'm traveling across the state that for all our challenges that we might face here in a state like Iowa, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world. And I really mean that, because I've had a chance to visit with folks. And when they share some of the challenges that they've got, or some of the structural issues that they have, they've got some real headwinds. And it also is something that we can help with that. We can help with educating folks on how we do things here, but also then, of course, we can be a supplier to folks all around the world as well, in the form of exports and international trade.
So obviously at that kind of moment too, I'm sure there are things that you come away with learning from your counterparts in different countries about what they're looking for, the concerns they have, and things like that.
No, absolutely. Every time we go, India, just coming back from India a month ago, and some of the challenges they've got around water availability and water quality, to compare that to where we sit in the world, those perspectives are always very, very healthy. So, but it really does drive home. You can think of places in the world where farmers don't actually own their land, they're leaseholders, or they get to farm, because the government allows them to. And, it's things like, well, why would you ever invest in improving that farm or improving that soil if somebody can just come and take it from you, especially if it's a good farm? Think of the challenge that creates if you're saying, well, I've got no investment to make this situation better. I've got no reason to invest in soil health because I have no ownership over it. Boy, that's staggering. And I remember that being driven home to me very well by a group of African farmers. And you think, my goodness, that ownership piece is so important, that heritage, that generational aspect of what we do here, especially is related to a particular piece of ground. Boy, that's a strength. But if you don't see that different perspective, you might miss that, take that for granted.
Thank you to Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig for joining today's show. It is time now for our closing market report, and we're joined now on the show by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. At the end of the trading day here on Thursday, I'm joined now by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Sam, how did the grains trade here today?
Well, Mark, we had a mixed bag here. Corn in a very tight trading range, only about 3 to 5 cents, was mixed. Beans were slightly higher, but again, tight trading ranges today, only about 10 cents total there. And the January beans were up 5 1/4. Today was first notice day on November futures, so anybody with long November soybean futures were at risk for delivery, but didn't have any of that here today, so be on the lookout for that going forward.
Sam, have any of the export sales numbers or any of the flash sales here recently caught your eye?
Absolutely, yeah. We've seen very strong daily flash sale announcements for exports, and then this morning we had weekly export sales report, and it confirmed the strength in sales that we've been seeing for corn and soybeans both. So that's definitely been something that's keeping us held up there. Obviously, we're not necessarily rallying here, but not necessarily falling apart either. So I think the strength in exports has held us in there here so far.
Here in the state of Iowa, Sam, it has been a fast harvest season like it has been for much of the Corn Belt. But have you heard any stories of any places that have had any issues or any spots where they've been a little bit slower to get through harvest this year?
Really haven't heard a whole lot of that. I deal with a lot of guys here in central Illinois and a few guys over kind of in your area over there in Iowa. But the general theme has been, just like you said, very fast and dry. Haven't had a lot of rain. So guys were able to finish up, and I'd say around here we're 95 to 100% complete with harvest. There's a few fields here or there, but for the most part, we're pretty much all wrapped up around here. And today we did see a little bit of rain, not near as much as what I think a lot of folks would have liked, but looks like here over the next 7 to 10 days or so, get some more rain here and replenish some of that soil moisture levels, as that's going to become a concern here if we remain dry into next spring.
Here in central Iowa, Sam, we had just over 1.5 inches, and like we've been talking about here in the office and on our various platforms, it didn't really puddle very often. It was mostly, just immediately soaked up by that ground that has been so dry. Let's go over to the other side of the ag marketplace now in the livestock complex. How did the protein sector trade today?
We were down across the board on lives, feeders, and the hogs today, which is kind of been the story for the week here, at least in the cattle side of things. It's no secret that we're up near contract highs and have made quite the run here in the live cattle markets and feeders respectively. But this week we've started to sell off a little bit, still at very profitable levels. But looks like maybe we're starting to turn the trend here and maybe go back and revisit some of those lower prices that we've seen here maybe earlier in the month. So again, I'll just reiterate: if you don't have any protection in place, even though we're a little lower, we're still at historically pretty high prices here. So a good time for that on the cattle side of things to get some protection in.
And then what about the hogs, Sam?
The hogs, yeah. So that's been a story. It's hard to figure out. They just keep rallying here. Although today they were down about 57, 60 cents. They're still right up there at the very high end of the trading range, testing contract highs. Something very interesting yesterday. I had a story of a Oregon swine operation that had a bird flu case, and the hog market was actually up on the day. Obviously, you would think with negative news headline like that, you'd see a little bit of a sell-off, but not the case. Hogs have been very resilient here and able to hang in there at the higher end of the trading ranges.
And that hog market continues to just find that stronger footing than we've seen here, especially when we think back to where we were at the start of 2024. Sam, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Best way would be to go to our website at agmarket.net or give us a phone call here in Normal at 1-800-779-1515.
Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, our guest here today. Sam, thank you for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. You as well.
Thank you to Sam for joining today's show. It is time now for a look at the closing market numbers. And of course, you can find those numbers anytime under the market tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
December corn closes down 0.75 cents at $4.10 3/4. November soybeans up 6 even at $9.82 December soybean meal down 2.10 at $2.99.50. December soybean oil up $1.33 at $45.14. Chicago wheat down 2 3/4 at $5.70 Minneapolis wheat down 4 3/4 at $6.04 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 6 1/2 at $5.69 1/4. December oats up 3 3/4 at $3.94 1/2. On the Merc, December live cattle down 12 cents at $186.30. November feeder cattle down 12 cents at $245.37. December lean hogs down 57 cents at $83.80. December pork cutout unchanged at $94.55. Class 3 milk down 12 cents at $20.15.
That wraps up our market coverage for today's episode, and it brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media on Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notification icon as well, as that will let you know whenever we have any new video content available. Also, you should listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcast, which are found on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.